Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good morning, everyone. It's May 21st, 2020. I'm Eric. Today I have three things here to share with you. And we're going to jump off the beaten path a little bit here. So we're going to talk about, or I'm going to talk to you about, fear and pain. I don't know how many of you have ever experienced extreme blunt force trauma, but I've spent the last half of my life in a constant state of pain. Of course, I hide this from my family. I don't show that I'm in pain, because then my wife worries, and it's just not something that she can change. So there's no point in worrying her about it. Now, in the last year, I quit taking painkillers. A lot of people will tell you that it was one of the hardest things they've had to do, is stop taking them. And for some of us, it's not the withdrawal that makes it so difficult. It's the resurfacing of injuries that you sustained a long time ago. And when I was younger, I really can't tell you the year that this stuff happened in. So many instances that I just lost track. But many years back, I was the main distributor of marijuana, or one of them anyway, for the state of Michigan. I moved hundreds of pounds a month. And this created jealousy, envy, and hate from other people, gang members specifically. Not a member of any gang, although some of my friends, or some of my people at the time, they were gang members. And one day, or evening, my home was invaded by some of these gang members. And I was hit multiple times across my face and head and the rest of my body with a baseball bat. And to this day, I have a long crease that runs from about my brow ridge all the way back. To this day, my nose is severely damaged. It cost me most of my teeth. And so I was on painkillers for quite a long time. But thanks to the government and heroin addicts, I no longer have the ability to take them. And I could have jumped through a bunch of hoops in order to continue, but I'm not a person that jumps through hoops. And so I stopped taking them. But ever since then, I have lived with a constant state of pain. My face hurts almost all the time, still. Which is why I don't fear dying, okay? It took something like that for me to understand that there are many things that's worse than dying. And extreme and blunt force trauma and the lingering pain afterwards is one of those things that may be worse than dying. So it's been nearly a year since I've taken painkillers. And it's not the buzz that people go running back to. And one of the reasons why I decided to not take them is because of the names I've been called. Yeah, drug addict, meth head, crackhead. Because apparently all skinny people do these things. But the fact is, it was my injuries that caused me to lose the weight. When your face hurts, when your mouth hurts, you don't want to eat. You have to force yourself to. So that's what caused my weight loss. I used to be a rather stout guy, and I'm putting a lot of that weight back on now. Pants that didn't fit me last summer, that literally fall off me, required a belt, no longer requires a belt to stay on. Some would say that it's a good thing that I quit taking these painkillers. And many people have said, hey dude, why don't you try cannabis? Hey dude, why don't you try this or that? I'm going to tell you right now, there is no replacement for the painkillers. None. There's no street drug that can replace those painkillers. There is no plant that can replace those painkillers. Kratom does help quite a bit, but the thing about Kratom is it wears off really fast, a couple hours. So if you don't want to feel as bad as you might, every 2, 3, maybe 4 hours, you'll be taking another dose. Marijuana. It is good for a lot of things. But pain is not one of them. But there's a point to me mentioning this. It is the fear of pain, the fear of suffering, that holds people in a state of purgatory. Take these people, for example, here. These people are being driven to these jobs as a result of fear. And I'm going to be honest with you. Anymore, I don't feel much of anything. I don't even feel human. Whatever that means. So I don't feel sympathy for people when I probably should. And I know that sounds fucked up. But let me tell you, there are not many people out there that showed me any compassion or sympathy when the last 20 years I've experienced literal hell on earth. Nobody gave a shit. Not many, anyway. So it's very difficult for me to feel compassion for the rest of my fellow Americans. Very difficult. And in a way, it gives me kind of a unique insight. That, along with the fact that I didn't go to government indoctrination centers and just sit there and listen. I was a bad kid. I was a bad student. I thought what they were teaching me was bullshit and boring. So I acted up. It is fear that will lead many people to do this job here. A lot of them have lost their jobs because it was meant to be that way. But we're going to get into this. I thought I would explain myself a little bit here. And again, to this day, I pay for what happened to me over 20 years ago. And it was a big price. Contact tracers are amassing. The so-called authorities, the so-called ruling class, keep telling us we need to be tracked, traced, removed from our homes, separated and enslaved to keep us safe. But anyone signing up to be a contact tracer should really, really reconsider. And if you do, you better be ready, because some Americans are not going to be having that shit. I'm one of those Americans. Whatever you think you can do to me, you can't. You can't do it to me because I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. You can torture me, and whatever you do to me cannot be any worse than my last 25 years on this planet. And I'm sure that there are a lot of Americans out there who have this same mentality. All the marginalized, all the bullied, Dr. Ron Paul said it as clear as possible. Coronavirus contract tracers are the tools of dictatorship. Keep in mind before you go subscribing to what the government tells you they're going to do, that their every effort other than subjugation is a failure. Look at your roads. Look at our infrastructure. Look at the last, well, all the wars. Everything the government does fails. And that's going to include keeping a lid on the American people. There is coming a point to which that everyone is going to have enough for some reason or another. It could be that parent that just lost their child because they died after getting a vaccine. It could be that individual that was ripped from their family because of marijuana. It could be a whole number of things. Many, many things. Government always fails, and every time they fail, they create bigger problems, amass more power, and fail even harder. Every little bit of power they are giving makes their failure that much more monumental. Americans would be wise to wake up to just how much of their power they have willingly handed over to politicians for the illusion of safety. One at a time, says Dr. Paul about waking up the sheep. Contact tracing has something to do with health, says Dr. Paul, but it has to do with the health of the state even more. It's not really about the health of the individual. It's about the health and power of the state, their ability to force compliance. Everyone I know says they won't comply with any contact tracer being paid to forcibly remove people or test them for anything against their will. And remember that CDC official, what she said. Contact tracers, cops, and others trying to force the totalitarian New World Order on people should really think hard about whether or not they want to go down this path. I hope our side hurries up and reaches a lot of people, says Dr. Paul. And I couldn't agree more. People are waking up, but it's taking a long fucking time to break their chains of their slavery that have been embedded into most of the minds from birth. And until we stand against all tyrants, not just our government, but all tyrants, and the ruling class, the human race will never be free. And it's all about fear. Fear. Fear is what makes people snitch on each other. Fear of going to prison. Or fear of getting sick. But let me tell you, it is always those most fearful of death and pain that get to experience those things first. So what's up with fear? How the elites use it to control us and how to break free. Now, fear is at the top of the most powerful tools the government ruling class have against the masses. It is fear that kept people in their homes throughout the lockdown. It is fear that keeps people still in a state of panic. Now, they inject fear into the public at the drop of a hat, making you, the public, much easier to manipulate and control. And Aristotle once said, "He who has overcome his fears will truly be free." People repeat to me constantly, "Be safe." I do not want to be safe. I want to be free. Fear is a very powerful weapon, and it's been used globally for the last few months. People have shown that the instant the media tells them to live a life scared in their homes, they will comply in order to stay safe. Well, whether the virus is real or not is not the point. The elitists must keep the public in a constant state of panic in order to control them. Unafraid and compassionate people are impossible to control. And I would say that probably can X out that compassionate part. We all know that propaganda has been injected into the school system to eliminate critical thinking. At school, we were taught to think in a certain way. They taught us what to think, but not how to develop our thinking. And it's only after you face major problems and you don't have anyone on your side that you really, really develop the skill. And everyone was taught the same. if we thought in different ways than our classmates, teachers would tell us we are bad students. And that's exactly what happened to me. So you know what I did? I fucked off in school. Because I thought differently than everybody else. And again, I paid. And paid for thinking differently. The other hard truth most will not like to hear is that if you are still stuck in the left versus right paradigm, you haven't figured shit out. Nothing. You are still just as enslaved as you were before you got involved with your leftist or right-wing people. It is that exact programming that keeps you bound. And it's time for everyone to question what they've been programmed to think. And it should start now. The fear of not electing the right candidate drives people to the polls to vote for evil every election cycle. You know the saying, the lesser of two evils. But it's still evil. Politicians are being elected by persuading the masses through the use of fear, while journalists influence public opinion by terrorizing the people's minds. And if it's not a disease, it's an ideology. Ohio County declares racism a public health crisis amid coronavirus pandemic. What I tell you yesterday. What I tell you a few videos ago. They're going to be ramping up the attacks on white people. You know why? Because they're afraid. They fear. I'm not threatened by black people. I'm not threatened by Mexican people. I'm not threatened by anybody because I don't fucking give a shit. And that's the key. At some point in time, I just stopped giving a fuck. I don't care if it hurts. Don't. You see, in a truly free society, I would be able to treat myself with any substance I deemed necessary. But in a prison hive mind society, that's bad. This kind of headline is going to pop up more and more. And it is meant to do something. It is meant to cause a reaction. I hope you're ready. And if you haven't shed your fear of dying and pain, you should probably find a way to do so. Anyway, I thought I would talk to you guys about this stuff today. I hope everyone has a great day, and until next time, kill the state and live